appearance of a stranger saved Cesaria from impending destruction. From whence he came, no one knows, but his strength and courage were without peer.
Are you familiar with a game called Ultima Online? Cool. I wasn't until I read this 2018 article on digital materiality. Ultima to me is just a spell in Final Fantasy, but to some folks it is home to one of the goofiest phenomena in all of gaming. You see, in Ultima Online there are horses, like there are in a lot of games, but to add a little bit of charm to the world, at launch, developers added horse poo to some of the stables because, you know, horses take dumps. If you wanted to, you could pick it up and keep it as an item. A useless item, mind you. It serves no in-game purpose whatsoever, but if your heart so desired, it was yours. Definitely a cute little thing the devs did with this, but what they did not do, however, was design the horses to produce more poo. And when the Ultima community realized that the poop was not a renewable resource and only about one in, every 30,000 players had a piece, the rarity and the in-game value of this actual horse shit skyrocketed. This poo was used as a status symbol. It was a collector's item. It could be traded for tons of in-game currency. It became a trophy to put on display among the community. This was the UO equivalent to having a blue eyes white dragon on the playground, except it was excrement. What does this have to do with shiny Pokemon, you ask? Well, more than you think, and I'll tell you, but first, I've got to pay the bills. Have you ever gone to Google and searched something like, Umbreon PNG, only to find a PNG that is in fact not a PNG? This happens to me a lot actually. Making thumbnails and or memes for these videos involves lots of repeated downloading from a lot of websites until I finally find what I need. And when you do a cascade of downloading like that, you open yourself up to the possibility of downloading an infected file, malware, and the like. Which is why I trust NordVPN and their new feature, Threat Protection, which protects your device from malicious sites, downloads, trackers, and intrusive ads, even if you're not currently connected to your VPN. And speaking of VPN, we all know how important it is to protect your data online, and NordVPN is simply the best at what it does. With NordVPN, all of your data on all of your devices stays safe behind a wall of next-generation encryption, which is something that incognito mode does not do. And I don't think I need to remind you that using this service, you can route your connection elsewhere in the world to unlock the full library of your favorite streaming service. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan at a massive discount plus 1 additional month for free when you go to nordvpn.com/DarylTG. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and this is the best deal NordVPN offers, so don't miss out. One more time, that's nordvpn.com/DarylTG, or click the link in the description below. Thanks again to Nord for sponsoring, and with that said, back to horse poo. People like their stuff, even their digital stuff, especially when it holds some kind of special inherent rarity or value. We crave the unique and the hard to find because I think in a lot of ways, what we have says a lot about ourselves, and we all like to think that we are unique. There is a reason people crave deep customization. There is a reason people obsessively grind to get those rare Steam achievements. There is a reason horse poo can be a status symbol, and there is a reason people spend 30+ hours soft resetting to get Shiny God. No way! So what we're going to do on today's episode of Daryl Highlights a Bunch is talk about the psychology of shiny hunting and to a lesser degree video game collectibles. What makes these things so valuable, or at least what makes them seem valuable enough to go to exhausting lengths to get them? Why is spending hours hatching eggs or hunting down all the endings for a trophy totally normal nowadays? Why do these digital pets and knickknacks enchant us like they do? We could simply say that shiny Pokemon are rad and everyone wants them, so it's only natural that some people are going to have the drive to actually make it happen. But after this, there's got to be more going on here, and as you might have imagined, there is. So to get this going, let me give you a gift. Close your eyes and imagine that I have just handed you a water bottle. It's sturdy, it feels heavy but not too heavy. The surface is smooth and pleasing to the touch. It seems to be insulated, and overall it feels very quality. It looks like the lid twists off, and even that is really sturdy. You aren't sure how much water it will hold, but it's yours now. Drink imaginary water from it, put stickers on it, give it a name, enjoy it while we continue the video. If you've ever come across a shiny Pokemon before, you'll know that it's one hell of an adrenaline rush. All at once, time slows down, and it feels like you've been struck by lightning, but somehow you have to calmly and successfully reach into your back pocket for a bottle and catch said lightning, all while hoping your heart doesn't explode. And unlike most Pokemon you can just hunt down in a few minutes, for shinies, if you don't have a Master Ball, it takes some extremely high-stakes strategy to actually come away with the prize in some of these encounters. It's invigorating, it's a rush like no other, it's tantalizing, unless you don't know what a shiny Pokemon is, or upon seeing one once thought the game was busted, like me whenever I was a kid. I came across a golden ladybug, right? But instead of trying to catch it, I just stared at it, befuddled, and I thought that maybe something was wrong with my Game Boy. I had just saved, so I shut the game off, pulled out the cartridge, blew in it as you do, and popped it back in. Little did I know that I had just won a small lottery and refused the money. I had just rolled a 1 in 8,192 odds ladybug, but no lightning. And we've all heard of other similar stories of people just not realizing what they had or being a potato-brained kid like me. This isn't complicated. Knowing the odds is what gives shiny Pokemon their value, not just their alternative color. Knowing what something is worth is what makes garage sales fun, which is why all at once this Dookie became the richest prize in the game. Because of how our brains work, all it takes for a digital item to be coveted is an artificial rarity, or something that Vivi Ledinverda and Edward Castronova call time aristocracy. You see, in Ultima, there is a set amount of poop in the game, and that's that. Basic economics. Demand increases, supply remains the same, prices increase. But new shiny Pokemon can be generated, just extremely slowly. You are free to complete your Pokedex for a shiny charm, help out your odds, soft reset, reroll, hatch more eggs, or more recently, use mass outbreaks in Legends Arceus to eventually find the shiny Pokemon you want. Sure, it's technically never guaranteed, but you are welcome to put in the work, and more than likely, eventually, you'll get what you're after. But only if you devote copious amounts of time doing menial button inputs or pursuing extremely specific exploits.
And now, if I run away from battle, that would be the exact same thing as if I only initiated a battle with 2 and knocked out 2.
And this is exactly what is meant by time aristocracy. If you have the time, you'll be rewarded with social status. Now you can flex that you have a version of your favorite Pokemon that very few other people do. And this comes in many forms, by the way, not just time, but also skill, location, and combinations of each. Devoting yourself to doing this is definitely one way a game demands your time, but another is by simply placing windows on when certain items are available. I still haven't played this, by the way, but unless I'm mistaken, Animal Crossing has seasonal items that are only available during certain times of the year. Gacha games only run certain banners for short periods of time, and games run limited time events for unique rewards and benefits all the time. I refuse to play Final Fantasy XIV because, well, that's one hell of a slippery slope, but something tells me there is a great example of this in that game as well. Maybe someone watching can confirm. An extreme example of this is the Topps card trader apps that will, without warning, make certain cards available for purchase only within a set time frame. This leaves users investing not only their money, but also their time, ensuring they don't miss out on exclusive limited edition cards. Per the scarcity principle, by limiting the artificial supply, the game sort of creates a real-world demand. And though most games aren't this brutal, the psychology works the same. Regardless of how it's created, we seem to greatly value that which is hard to attain. And in fact, there is research to suggest that scarcity actually tarnishes our decision-making pretty heavily. That need to get what we don't have for some people can actually act as sort of an extreme form of FOMO, which may shed light into why some people obsessively hunt down shiny Pokemon, trading cards, or all of the achievements a game has to offer. Games and community interfaces only exacerbate this with some of their features. Steam does this little thing where it shows you what percentage of players have earned certain achievements, meaning you can readily see how your accomplishments in games stack up to others. PlayStation does this as well, and shows what trophies your friends are earning, and because of this, in-game accomplishment is often coveted in the exact same way as in-game valuables. This would be the skill-based aristocracy. Not everyone has the time to hunt down a shiny Pokemon or get this much gil in Final Fantasy VII, much in the same way not everyone has the skill to beat the final boss of Dead Cells without taking a single hit, or unlock the invisibility hat in Mario Odyssey. Scarcity comes in many forms: time, skill, and yes, like I said before, locations. Remember back in summer of 2016 when Pokemon Go had you breaking the speed limit on the way to your local library because someone online said that a Hitmonlee had spawned there? Remember begging your parents to take you to Burger King for one of these? You ever gone to GameStop just for an event Pokemon? These different forms of aristocracy often make us look pretty silly, but it seems we all crave these prizes for the same reasons. Not everyone can have them. Like the authors of the study I mentioned at the beginning point out, if everyone cannot have a digital item, the item may gain symbolic value and serve to differentiate collectors. And that really is the key here, that sense of differentiation. Games provide a lot of things for us: a captivating story, a way to connect with friends, a way to challenge ourselves, maybe a way to express ourselves. But because developers generally can't make an infinite variety of avenues for player expression, rarely will you be the only one using something. Everyone has access to the same clothes, the same weapons, the same Pokemon, and suddenly you may feel a little less unique for doing the same as others. Initially, I was enchanted by Ronnie's questline in Elden Ring, and I felt a connection to the characters in it. Once I had finished that quest up, I used the Dark Moon Greatsword that you get at the end of the quest and some of Blade's armor to, as silly as it might sound, kind of honor the memory of those characters and express my love for that little story arc. That is, until I saw my friends and legions of other people were doing that, and suddenly I fell straight out of my little headcanon and into what felt like a global fan club. What's the point of using the Dark Moon Greatsword if everyone is? What's the fun of going with the flow? What's the fun of having a shiny Ponyta if everyone gets one?
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
And I hesitate to bring this up because the internet has finally shut the hell up about it, but it's because of this mentality that, what does that stand for again? Nefarious flamingo tokens saw such a colossal surge of interest, especially in gaming. What if you could be the exclusive owner of a set of armor, right? What if this was your sword and absolutely no one else's? This is not me defending NUFs, by the way. The cons at this point in time massively outweigh the pros, but on a surface level, this may explain some of the fascination. But this is something that at a fundamental level, I think a lot of us can see through, right?
Wait a minute!
A lot of us fully understand that, Topps trading cards are just JPEGs you can screenshot online if you want. Usually your waifu can be downloaded instead of pulled, and shiny Pokemon are just a different color, man. And in some cases, the word different might be a little too generous. When you take a step back and think about it, we're all being played. We're buying into what clearly is an artificially created rarity through code instead of a real value, right? I've certainly felt that way before, and if you feel the same, do me a favor and pick up that imaginary water bottle from earlier. Remember this guy? Have you been using him? Like him? Well, let me ask you a question. How would you like to have this imaginary blanket? It's super soft to the touch, it feels like it would keep you warm, but it's also somehow kind of cool, like it's not suffocating, it wouldn't make you sweat. It's a good size, but not too terribly big. And again, like before, overall, it's quality. All you needs to do to get this blanket is give back your water bottle. You can't have both, so which will it be? I don't know what you chose. You can let me know in the comments below if you like. More than likely, I'd bet that most of you chose to keep the water bottle. Or maybe you're cold when you're watching this, so you went with the blankie. But regardless, this is an imaginary version of a pretty well-known study where researchers did this with a coffee mug and a chocolate bar. One group received the mug first, then was later given the surprise option to swap it for a chocolate bar. Another group received the chocolate bar first, with a chance for the mug second. In both cases, the large majority of participants preferred to keep the object they started out with, which is why I bet that most of you decided to keep your imaginary water bottle. This is a demonstration of something called the endowment effect, which is the tendency of people to place a higher value on an item once they own it or once it has become associated with the self in some way. And it's because of the endowment effect that someone like me, who, as I mentioned earlier, thought I saw through the whole artificial rarity thing and swore I would never shiny hunt, was completely changed when I came across one large chirpy boy. And it took several come to Jesus moments after this to convince myself that shiny hunting was not how I was going to spend my time. But it's amazing how fast this whole endowment effect interacts with the artificial scarcity. This is my least favorite Pokemon, Stunky. Would you like to see my typical reaction to Stunkies when I play Pokemon?
Fucking Stunky, get away. No one likes Stunky, dude. What a waste of a Pokemon.
And now, would you like to see my reaction to coming across a shiny Stunky?
Wait, is that a... Hey, Pepe Le Pew, let's go! Stunky's my boy, Stunky more like funky, baby.
And this really is the difference between an image and an image that you can say you own. Ownership is a powerful sensation because it's less about the thing and more so about what the thing represents by being ours. In a 2018 study, researchers performed a series of interviews where they would ask people to describe, compare, and rank objects they own and are proud of. Participants talked about their clothes, their vehicles, their homes, wristwatches, shoes, and everything in between. Folks listed tons of reasons why they were most proud of their belongings. One, of course, was social status through expensive things, but what was more common was items that people had worked for or achieved in some way. Degrees instead of houses, artwork instead of name brand clothing. Another huge reason was a sense of connectedness, maybe a watch that was given by a grandfather or a necklace given by a former lover. In essence, it's not just rarity or even aesthetic that makes items precious to us, but also what owning those items represent to us. The hand cannon in Dead Space 2 isn't just valuable because only around 6% of players ever get it, or just because it's hilarious. It's valuable because it represents your growth as a player to be able to beat the game on its hardest difficulty. That completed Thieves' Den in Persona 5 may be more than just a status symbol, it may be your way of expressing love for a title that means the world to you, your way to give something back to your favorite game. Catching a shiny Pokemon isn't just thrilling because of the elusiveness, but also because it may have been your favorite mon since you first discovered the series. That old jacket may not be all that nice, but it belonged to an old friend. Now, in the year 2080, your granddaughter may have a shiny Electabuzz that you passed down to her and she keeps for sentimental reasons. You know, your son's like, I'll never forget whenever dad caught this on stream. But because of the nature of video games, there aren't exactly family heirlooms, so meaningfulness has to be artificially represented in some way. Luck, as we've discussed, can add a differentiation, effort can add feelings of pride, but sensations of connectedness might be a tricky one. How can a digital item carry the same aura that a physical item would? Especially when I want to get sentimental about a questline in Elden Ring, but then of course everyone has to pick that ending. In a 2012 research paper, one University World of Warcraft player recalls a piece of equipment that she was gifted in-game from a friend. Regarding this equipment, she is quoted as saying the following: "Last year, I got something very specific to me, a piece of equipment from my character class. It was that bit much more special because it was individually tailored to me. Most things I wouldn't be that upset if I lost because I could just buy them again, but with gifts, it would never be quite the same because she wouldn't have bought it, and I would know that. Another Forza player recalls a car that he created with his partner that, in his words, is irreplaceable simply because they made it together. Despite being a digital item, he feels that if it were erased, remaking it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't carry the same meaning as it once did. For digital items to have a sentimental quality like this, researchers think that they have to carry some kind of digital patina. If you have an old family heirloom, you know that it ages, right? That pocket watch is nicked at the bottom, your grandma's photo album is frayed at the edges, that old scarf is faded. Little things like this add character to items, idiosyncrasies that make that keepsake feel as though it still has the aura of the person or the time that it represents to you. These details help document the history of those items and make them mortal. In games, this is tough to do because programming in signs of deterioration is a lot of work unless it simply breaks at the end of its life. But games do try to create a digital patina in other more subtle ways like customizable equipment, weapons, and the like. The car and the equipment from before are special because of the people they are associated with, but the fact that they are both in some way tailor-made makes them different from just another exact copy of an item that any player can just find. Pokemon is actually great at doing this as well. Each Pokemon has a history. Nowadays, you'll always be able to see who that Pokemon originally belonged to. You'll always see what kind of ball it was caught in, what its nature is, if it had Pokerus, its height, its weight, when and where in the region it was caught, or maybe where on Earth it was caught. Little things like that, before you even get to the possibility of it being shiny, adds so much character and so much individuality to your new friend. It takes what in some games might just be a string of code or just another copy of the same legendary weapon anyone can get to something completely and totally yours. Something that reflects your personality, your accomplishments, and maybe even reminds you of someone else. Shiny Pokemon are sort of the perfect storm of everything we've talked about today. As we've discussed, lots of games do these things separately, right? Time aristocracy in events, digital patinas in customization, the endowment effect in general, but Pokemon is one of the very few games that truly pull from each of these different pieces to make catching a Mon truly feel special for the player. You could argue that there is a skill aristocracy as well, depending on if you feel it really takes skill to complete the Pokedex, get a shiny charm, and then really optimize your time hunting these precious little albinos. But regardless of where you land on that, Game Freak has done a phenomenal job of making your new partners feel unique by artificially manufacturing prestige, authenticity, and psychological ownership. Throw that in with infinite rerolls, a luxury poo hunters do not have, and it's no wonder people spend days at a time trying to hunt down their own personal holy grail. Believe me, if gacha games had infinite rerolls so long as you put in enough time and money wasn't a factor, we would have a hell of a lot more waifu hunting on our hands and your grandkids would have Diluc passed down to them instead. All that to say, you aren't crazy for shiny hunting or even being interested in shiny hunting. It is inherently appealing because of everything we just talked about today. I'd be lying if I said I didn't dabble in it for a week after beating Legends Arceus and after catching my 2 new favorite Pokemon, so give it a try if you're on the fence about it. Or don't. Plus, I think there's something kind of relaxing about slowly grinding or farming for something in games, but that might be a whole other video. Usually I end these things by dropping some inspiring line about how gaming touches our hearts in a way few other mediums can, and then I'll have the music swell over an inspiring shot that cuts to black as the beat drops, but today, I'll simply say, I've been Daryl, you've been a lovely audience, thanks for watching, and in summary, shiny Pokemon, good. You will not shiny hunt. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. It was easily one of the most frantic scripts I have ever written. Sometimes it's tough to get all your thoughts together, but if you're hearing this, clearly it all worked out. I want to thank you guys for being such good sports about the April Fool's video. I may have gone a little bit too far, but I regret nothing. Plus, an actual anime Psych of Play episode is in the works, so maybe that'll convince you to forgive me. Thanks as always to my wonderful Patreon supporters, including this month's featured patrons, Hugo Gallego, DS Coda, J-Ray, Sputnik Sweetheart, Tom Morgan, Miara Lintvar, Christian Zekov, and good old Charlie. As always, if you want to support the channel on Patreon, there is that's correct grammar. There are tons of exclusive content waiting for you, and it is only $1 a month. Take care, my friends, and as always, have yourself a damn good one.
Oh, but pardonnez-moi, but permit me to introduce you myself. I am Pepe Le Pew.